Okay, happy New Year, everyone. For as much as I love any given Monday, it causes me an undue amount of stress. But I am excited to be here. And I am here to just kind of discuss and share a few things, a few gems of wisdom as we enter the new year as leaders. Last year was an interesting year for N18, an interesting year for the work we were doing. It really focused on executive retreats, and we delivered. And I am very satisfied with the outcome. It also prompted me to think about how I could better serve and share information and insight with individuals that are listening, that are part of leadership teams, or that are trying to craft and create a culture that withstands the test of time, withstands the test of industry and market and all of the different things that are occurring. If you're not in finance or technology, it's a little less predictable, but in the end, people still need services and people need the work that you do. So let's get started. I mean, honestly, we're here to have this discussion because most leadership teams, they don't fail, they drift. And they don't notice that it's happening. Meetings will continue, everyone stays busy, the organization keeps moving, but decisions take longer. Tension is also always present. It gets handled in sideways, offline, but it's never actually addressed. And alignment starts to feel assumed. We overuse this word alignment, and people are definitely not on the same page. If you're a leader and this sounds familiar, there's honestly nothing that has gone wrong. It's just drift is it's not a leadership flaw. It's more of a structural reality. And so today's conversation, we are focusing on why leadership teams drift, because it's the beginning of the year. What better time to reacclimate yourself, realign, be more intentional. And if you're a leader or a CEO or even just like a middle manager, team leader, and people are actually working for you, these are things that you can do before the drift turns into dysfunction. I've worked on many dysfunctional teams, and it's really the opportunity for a leader to step up and ask, what do I want to occur, or what needs to be different? And it goes beyond just taking a team out for drinks and, labeling a team building activity to help address the dysfunction. It's more of a drip. People are starting to feel disconnected. But you as a leader, you can be proactive. You can do many things. And I'm here to show you how, or at least tell you give you a few recommendations to help support you. And so let's start off talking about why the drift happens. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't drift, like people don't drift because they don't care. They drift because the capable leaders that are in execution mode, they stay in execution mode for far too long. Everyone's focused on their function. Time always feels scarce. We don't have enough time to do this. We don't have enough time to do that. And reflection, it gets postponed. We don't get time to think about what went well. We don't get time to do a postmortem or really reflect on what needs to change to improve. We don't get to think about how did you feel, and feelings are, maybe there's not always a place for feelings in the work environment that you're in, but you do need to reflect on what was a success, what allowed all of the team to participate. And if you're just a team of one, what brought you the most joy, what allowed you to collaborate and deliver the best for your clients. These are questions you have to pause and ask yourself. But when you're in execution mode, you can't do that. And so when you really think about it, everyone's focused on their function. The time always feels scarce. Alignment becomes like an implied conversation instead of something that you're testing repeatedly. And over time, the leaders stop thinking together. Everyone's on their own thing, doing their own thing. It's very disparate and separate. You're still meeting. You might still be collaborating. You may even still be communicating an email here, a meeting there, but you're no longer slowing down to reflect and examine how you're making decisions. Are you using a rubric? Are you using your strategic plan? Are you using any of the documents that will help align, or looking at past performance? Like if you looked at all of your receipts and invoices for last year, who paid you and who paid you well and who paid you on time? Those are the businesses you need to focus on for 2026. But we don't take time to always review that and evaluate it. And what assumptions are shaping your behavior? What assumptions are shaping the behavior and the decision-making processes of your team? And without doing all of that, tension quietly starts to build. That's how the drift begins. People are maybe not voicing their concerns. They're slightly resentful, but they're not sharing that. Maybe they're searching for jobs on LinkedIn in their free time, and you don't know that. It's quiet, it's respectful, and it's expensive because it costs you productivity. So let's talk about what it actually costs you, this drift. And the conversation is around drift because you are at the beginning of the year. You can shift the dynamic. You can make a change. It's possible. But drift rarely occurs and announces itself. You rarely see people saying, I just don't feel engaged or connected. People don't often voice it. It's a quiet activity. There was this theme maybe last year or the year before, quiet quitting, silent quitting. It's a similar. People just begin to disengage. Your team leaders, they don't come up with the same ideas. They don't come up with recommendations. They don't have a how-to, can-do attitude anymore. It's just get it done and let's get out of here. And that energy doesn't allow for productivity or growth or exponential growth in this case. Decisions that need just one more conversation, issues that circle, they keep coming back. You feel like you're in Groundhog's Day. You're talking about the same thing over and over again. Issues circle, but they never land. You never actually come to a final conclusion. The tension, it's manageable, but eventually it won't be. And when you're looking at just the challenges that leadership teams face, you have to address the drift. Otherwise, it's a missed opportunity. And leadership transitions will occur if you're not paying attention to everything that is happening, the sentiment, the conversations that happen behind the scene. It's literally change management at its finest, but you are focusing on the drift. So I'm here to talk about that because it's an opportunity for you to repair trust. It's an opportunity for you to use your energy to maintain alignment and to make sure that everyone's on the same page. At the beginning of the year, it goes beyond resolutions and saying what you're going to do different. It is about bringing everyone to the table to assess how do we proceed and how do we move forward and what are the things that are causing us to be out of alignment. So the response to drift in most cases I've seen, when people call us, they're calling because they've done the best that they can. The leaders have done the best that they can to reconnect the team. They've done team building activities. They've had group sessions and group meetings. They've had one-on-ones, and nothing is helping the team perform better. It's not more meetings. It's not helpful to have more updates, more emails. None of that can really address the fact that people don't feel connected to your mission, don't feel connected to the work. You don't need another workshop. You do not need another training. These are not helpful. It's just more information, but it doesn't address the issue that people are facing. And that's more of an internal thing. We look at a holistic view of a person. It's not just the work. It's not just their emails, but it's like, how do you bring people to the table to understand where their concerns are and address them? Drift isn't an information problem. It's a shared experience problem. And many leaders miss that you can't realign a leadership team in the same environment that caused the drift. So if you pull everyone into an office with no windows, it's not really an environment that is conducive to creativity, to thinking outside of the box and bringing people together. You can't realign a leadership team in the same environments. That is why we promote offsites. That's why we try to take people out of the office, out of their immediate environment, to spark creativity, to inspire, and to encourage them to work together. The reason why you can't use the same environment, so when people recommend me as a person to help plan your offsite or your executive retreat, I immediately say we cannot do this in your office. The patterns are familiar. There's trauma there. The roles are fixed. The urgency, there's just never a change in the environment, and you need an interruption to help disrupt, honestly, the dynamics of the past. And so just give everyone a fresh canvas to work with. So what actually works? The intentional executive retreats work. I feel like I'm sharing this because this is your opportunity to make a decision that will transform how your business functions, how you function as a leader of a team, how you function in the midst of just planning for the year, whether you are a leader of a nonprofit whether you are a leader of a for-profit, it really doesn't matter. Your leadership team is there. They've rolled up their sleeves. They're ready to make changes. But you, as a leader, have to think about, how do I ensure that they don't get burnt out, they're in alignment, and they are giving their very best. Well, the executive retreat is my favorite. It works for any level of an organization when they're designed well, not because they're offsite, not because they interrupt the patterns alone, but they create time to slow your thinking. It allows someone from the outside to look at the problems and the dynamics and observe them as they're happening in real time, because sometimes we're rooted in our challenges. And when I say rooted, meaning that we've really gotten familiar with them and they're just the norm, and they become the norm of the organization. But when you have an external, almost like an auditor, they look at it with a fresh set of eyes, and they can see the forest from the trees. Is that the saying? But the benefit of the executive retreats, and that's really what the focus of today is, like, how do you see the drift? How do you address the drift? And even if you don't do an executive retreat, take your people outside of the office to strategize and think about how they want to move forward. Every organization can't do this, but you can. You just have to get creative of how you pull that together. Every meeting doesn't have to be in the office. Every meeting doesn't have to be on a Zoom. You can do other things too, or Teams. You can do other things to disrupt the patterns. A good executive retreat will create space for leaders to slow their thinking, space to surface what normally remains unsaid. That is a challenge. How do you create an environment where people will speak up, but not in an argumentative tone, in a desire to solve for what's not being done or not being addressed? And it's a structured exercise that will allow your team to think as a system, not just as individuals, a process to pull and extract information from all individuals. I've had executive retreats where people are completely disengaged in the beginning, and then they realize that it's not what they expected. They realize that it's an opportunity for them to really brainstorm strategies to make their own work environment better, because, as they say at Dale Carnegie, this is where I learned it, most people are tuned into one radio station. What's in it for me? It is the station that helps them figure out how to move forward, and it's just a fact of life. And I think that oftentimes people misinterpret what this means, but the reality is, it's how people are oriented. It's how we survive and navigate life. But as a business leader, you can capitalize on that. If you know what the motivational factors are of your team, you can bring out their best work as a good leader. And so this structure allows your leadership team to think as a system, not just as individuals. And when it's done well, the retreat doesn't feel like a dramatic exercise that you're never going to do again. It feels very clarifying. And so we use golf as a theme because it's more of a mirror of your organization. And it doesn't matter that everyone can't play. It's more that you get everyone together, learning together or collaborating together, different skill levels, because that is what your office has, a series of individual contributors that are excellent, but have not figured out how to work better together. And the patterns show up quickly: how decisions get made, how leaders communicate, and behavior will tell the truth of how they need to communicate or where the opportunities are. So let's talk about the drift. If you take anything away from our conversation today, I'd like you to assess, are your leaders and your team members drifting from the mission? Do they understand the call to action of what you're trying to accomplish, whether it is a major digital transformation, whether it is, in some cases, a leadership transformation or a leadership change? Look at we have a new mayor, and he has a new transition team, and those individuals are tasked with figuring out how to continue business, but then approve upon it. And so everyone has to be on the same page. But then you also have individuals that have been in roles or seats for many, many years, and they have to weather that transition. How do you ensure that they are still bought into that mission? What does the work look like? How do you bring everyone together to take disparate ideas and vision and bring people together so that it can be executed? You as leaders have the opportunity to do that. So how can you assess the drift? Well, aside from surveying individuals, one-on-one conversations, you have to have a strategy and understand, as a leader, what are the top things that I want my team to focus on. Maybe it's your top five areas of improvement for my organization, whether it's revenue, people, operations, customer support and service, or just overall business development. Maybe it's all of those things. How are the team members aligned to create a consistent service experience, or maybe a consistent environment across all of your different sites, or just a growth-oriented exercise? How are they positioned to do that? As a leader, you can decide. So assess the drift. Are they on target? But are you on target? Do you have the top priorities for the organization right now? Have you extracted that from the individuals? Because you can't decide that in a vacuum. You need to decide that as a team, as a unit, or at least it's getting everyone's buy-in is how you can better affect change. And so I really feel this is the foundation for any executive retreat, from our process to our delivery, to our assessment, to execution, to our follow-up, to understand what are the KPIs that you want to measure by the end of this, and what does that look like? What is that environment? How does it shift or change? How does your culture change at the end? In the end, for me, this is our first N18 Any Given Monday. I will tell you, for my own assessment of drift, I ask the staff members that I work with, primarily my admin, honestly, what her thoughts are. Where does she think I need to improve? Where does she think that we can better connect with our existing clients and help them feel, one, the value that we're providing, but two, understand that we're committed to helping them move their mission forward, and three, helping them clarify what their goals are by the end of the year, or just month by month. And for me, that is the process that we use. Most people will come to us when they've exhausted all options. They've done the team building activities, they've hired random workshop leaders, and now they're looking at how do we have transformational and long-lasting change. That is where we are unique as a brand. I will also say that one of the other things that we focused on is how do we start to delegate and practice some of the strategies that we're sharing in executive retreat. I perform an executive retreat for myself and the team, even when the team is just me, because in the end, each function needs time. I need time for each function, and to understand operationally, how are we improving? Customer support, how are we improving? Systems and processes, which are part of operations, how are we improving? Presence, delivery, and continuing Any Given Monday was one of the ways that we will continue to connect with individuals. But in the end, this is my first episode, and I am excited to have you. So thank you for joining us on Any Given Monday. Next month, we'll have a guest. And so I'm excited to be back with you this year. Happy New Year. And I look forward to more prosperous activities. Thank you for joining us.